Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our webinar. I still see some clients joining in. Some would be coming off work. So let us wait for about 30 seconds. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Lester, and I'm part of the marketing team in HSBC Singapore. So on behalf of my fellow colleagues and our external speaker, a very warm welcome to all of you for today's webinar on retirement with our distinguished partner, Rowe Price, Singapore, and our own internal HSBC speaker. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here with all of you today. Many of you have partnered HSBC. Some of you have been our clients for a very long time. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to serve you and your family. So HSBC is Southeast Asia's longest serving bank, with our presence dating back to the 1870s. We're proud of our heritage and we understand the importance of the long-term partnership. We want to continue to partner with you in the decades to come. I trust this evening's insights will help you with your retirement planning. So it's a pleasure that we have the opportunity to convene in the cusp of the last quarter of the year today. Retirement is not a single milestone. It has become non-linear for most, unfolding in different stages that require thoughtful planning. In Singapore, affluent individuals estimate that they'll need a passive monthly income of 16,000 US dollars to maintain their lifestyle during retirement, according to our Affluent investment snapshot. How does your plan compare? As such, we are joined this evening by two distinguished speakers. Firstly, from HSBC, our very own Dr. Cora Petipas, and from T. Rowe, Singapore, Mr. Nicholas Tong, CFA, to answer such questions. So Dr. Cora Petipas is a Global Senior Manager, Financial Planning with HSBC Wealth and Private Banking. She's an international best-selling author and a seasoned financial expert with over 20 years of experience. As a thought leader of HSBC, she supports clients through the strategic wealth building and personalized financial planning. Mr. Nicholas Tong, CFA, is a Vice President of Rowe Price Singapore Private Limited. He's the head of intermediary Southeast Asia in global distribution. Before joining Rowe Price in 2023, Nicholas was in similar roles in other asset management firms. He holds a bachelor degree in economics at the University of College London. In addition, if you have questions, please feel free to put it into the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll do our best to address as many questions as we can towards the end of the presentation within our allocated time today. So these are our disclaimers. All right, and to kick off this evening's insights, let us welcome Dr. Cora Petipas. Dr. Cora, over to you, please.
Well, thank you, and greetings, everyone. It's great to be here tonight. I hope you are all well. Next slide, please. So we wanted to come with you tonight with some exciting insights that we've seen, and how to apply them. As Lester was saying, retirement has fundamentally changed, and especially for our affluent investors and our international clientele, this is really, really exciting changes that we were seeing. So we did a insights called Quality of Life Affluent Investor Snapshot series, over 10,000 people and 12 countries. And what we've been seeing over the globe and over even the generations has been remarkably consistent. What we've been seeing is that what it means to be wealthy is changing, and people are going from the traditional aspects of study, work, retire until they're 65, and to something very, very new. Retirement's no longer static. It's not a predictable phase of life as it once was. Rather, it's not a single life event bookmarked by a career. People are changing it and they're self-defining it, which is very, very exciting. Next slide, please. These are the Coles notes. You're welcome to read the report. It's online, but these are the Coles notes of what the insights that we found when we've talked to our affluent investors. Retirement is still the predominant long-term goal for people, but what we're seeing is the next emergent short-term goal and midterm goal is mini retirements. 5 out of 10 people are looking at taking mini retirements. The average age we've seen in the survey, not that it's a recipe, is 47 years old, and the average length of time is 6 to 12 months. The average amount, and remember this is affluent people, is 340,000 US dollars. Now, that doesn't mean that that is how much you have to spend. That's how much people are allocating for it on average. You can do more or less. It's completely scalable. And what we're seeing, very, very interestingly, is that 87% of people who take it, they see a marked increase in their quality of life, which is very, very interesting. Next slide, please. Probably wonder why people are taking them. Now, the reasons are as individuals, people, but as a mass, we see patterns. Our global data is the clearest evidence of what's catching on. Our research shows that 50% is like they want to take their first break. And what they're looking at doing is usually spend quality time with family. Now, Gen Z, because they're younger, they're in their 20s, we see a slightly different pattern with them, but millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers, they want to spend time with family, they want to focus on individual well-being, and they want to be able to do things that they haven't been able to do, sometimes start a business. So really the reasons when you dive deep into the categories are consistent, but the reasons when you talk to each person is very, very different. And it's a very, very exciting thing. Now, when you see Gen Z, you'll see them looking at traveling more and exploring the world without constraints. You have to remember that Gen Z probably don't have children or family roots yet. But with millennials, Gen X, and boomers, it tends to be more about family, having time for themselves, for passion projects, or their career. And we're happy to support our clients when they're doing these things. Next slide. So this is the new life. This is what we see in our clients now, and all the color and excitement that comes with it. If you look at the line in the middle, that's the traditional route. So you study very, very hard until you're 25, you get good grades, you go into a job between 20 and 25, and then you work solidly till 65, and then you retire. You finally get the fruits of your labor and you get to rest. So that's the narrative that a lot of us grew up with, and that has been successful for our parents and grandparents, but that's markedly changing now. I don't want to say that traditional retirement has been thrown out the window. Our insights show that 25% of our clients still do 25%, like still do traditional retirement, and it works for some people. If it works for you, it's great. But the emergent theory we're finding is the new path where it's there's chapters in your life and you're going to be doing different things. You'll be having portfolio careers, you'll be having mini retirements. And what we've seen in this is a pattern of work, retire, realign, repeat. And so even when we get to our next speaker, Nick, he'll talk about the unretirement trend as well. So it's becoming very nonlinear, very, very bespoke, and we're helping our clients sort through this so that they can do their breaks, their additional breaks, and still have still doesn't impact their retirement plan or their legacy that they want to leave as well. So what is mini retirement? Think of it as a rhythm. Clients can pause, reflect, and re-enter life with new purpose. It's not about quitting, it's about recalibrating. So a mini retirement is defined as a clean career break from your job, lasting from a few months to a few years. Again, taking to travel, spend quality time with family, pursue hobbies, and develop new interests. This pause is different than a sabbatical, but I mean, if you have the ability to do a sabbatical, that's fine too. There's no rules again. And what we're seeing in HSBC, and this is what we're championing in terms of how we support our clients, is the multi-retirement, where they take multiple career breaks. And what's interesting with the career breaks is they'll take them through their lives for different reasons. The first one tends to be for family, the second one tends to be for career, and the third one tends to be for things that they hadn't gotten around to, their passion products, self-development. Some people described it as just time for them because they've been doing so much for everyone else through their lives. They've been very successful. They're affluent now, and they want to take this time because they can, which is very, very exciting. Next slide. So this brings us to how people fund them, which is very, very interesting, right? So how they told us they fund this is very consistent with what we see with our clients day to day, is they'll take from personal savings first, very, very smart. All through the generations, you'll see that it's very, very consistent, which Gen Z, Millennials, X, and Baby Boomers do in that way. And then they'll take from dividends, interest, or capital gains. So earnings from their investment strategies and their investment portfolios they have. Then that's where we start to see a little bit difference. Gen Z is a bit more entrepreneurial. They're looking at part-time jobs. They're looking at starting a business, income from digital products or social media. So they're very entrepreneurial. Millennials as well too, but then they'll start looking more at renting out their property. And then Gen X and baby boomers, and again, they're at the age to do that. They'll also pull from their pensions, and they will look at renting out their properties. So there's different ways that you can fund your mini retirements and your career breaks. And really, it's bespoke as we look at each individual clients, but as a group, this is how people are doing it across the generations. What we see about people doing this is confidence. Confidence is the core thing that they, if they're confident about it, then they will do it. One of the things that are fear is how friends and family will look at them if they take a break, or reentry into the job market is a key concern. So if you're thinking about taking these breaks, and I mean, we'll help you with the money end, you also want to think about your reentry into your job market or into your business, or whatever else you happen to be doing. Next slide, please. So many retirements require real planning, especially if you want them to be successful and get everything out of them you want to get, even if it's just relaxation, recuperation, traveling the world, whatever fabulous dreams you happen to have for them. And the reasons why people do them, we've heard in our conversations with clients, are as different as people are, right? So there's no right and wrong to this. There's no formula, but there is a formula for how we finance it. So clients often underestimate the financial impact, especially with their final retirement. So if you look at this, and you'll probably see these if you go to your RM too, this is your net wealth. This is the mountain. You grow your net wealth, and then you deaccumulate, and then you have legacy at the end. And there's certain goals that we have specific to careers. Now, if you're taking your mini retirement really, really soon, you might take from your emergency fund. You build up your emergency fund, you pull down from it. You can also do a manage and grow or accumulation goal with us. And we also can double check your retirement goal to make sure it doesn't overtly impact your retirement. If you're an affluent investor and you're affluent, it probably wouldn't that much, but you might want to check just to make sure that you can still do all your long-term dreams as well. So the 4 steps we have is you want to assess your current financial situation, your objectives, and we can go through this with you as well. Building a dedicated savings fund and exploring alternative income sources. So some people will take from their savings again, and some people will utilize part-time income. When I did mine, we did some property management, and I did some consulting on my second one. First one, I didn't take in any extra income. I'd saved for it, and then I just pulled off that. So even if you do different ones, you're going to be at a different life stage. You're going to be at a different chapter, so you may want to do them differently. Securing healthcare and protection coverage, very, very important. We want to make sure you're covered. We can also check that, and have considered planning structured return to work. We aren't HR experts, but that's something we suggest you do to make sure that you're not stressed during your time off. One of the big regrets we hear from client, I had this time off, I had this break, whether it was wanted or unwanted, and I really wish I enjoyed it more. I really wish I appreciated the time. I really wish I was in the moment. And we're seeing this trend change, especially since 2020. It seems to be very, very much more important that people have the work-life balance across generations. Next slide, please. So, excuse me, motivations matter. So when we activate your goal conversations, we want to know what you really, really want to get out of it, the so what, right? And maybe it's just to rest and recuperate, maybe it's to travel the world. But here are 6 prompts that we've developed to make you really think about it. So what would you do with your planned break to make it truly meaningful? So what do you really, really want to get out of that break? Because the time will go, you'll be back to work, you'll be back to doing whatever you is your business. So what do you want to do in that time? If you could move anywhere without constraints and realize your goals, where would you go and when? I'm an expat. This is very close to my heart. A lot of our clients are international. Would you go to somewhere with beautiful beaches? Would you go to somewhere other than Singapore to realize these goals? Although Singapore is fabulous too. What can you make as part of your day now to realize your aspirations? I'm really, really big on this because our clients, and I've seen it broken my heart several times, where clients will have this dream and aspiration and they won't get to it. The client I remember the most is she was an accountant and she wanted to start art and she wanted to open a gallery. She was very, very well off. Her husband did very, very well. And so she wanted to open a gallery at her retirement and commune with artists and do art, create art, and just have that beautiful retirement. Well, she waited till retirement, and when she retired, she bought the gallery, she did all that, but she hadn't built out the business contacts. She hadn't been doing the art herself. She started right when she retired. I think it was about 60, and then she put all this pressure on herself. So if you happen to have that goal of wanting to do an art gallery, then make sure that you're painting. You join an art group. You go to a local gallery. You start making those friends. You go to things. So actually start living that life now, even if you're not taking a mini retirement. Don't hold off on your goals, because that's, especially if you've worked this hard to be an affluent place in your life, you want to make sure you're enjoying your life and your wealth. What's powering your next chapter? A side hustle, bold idea, or the freedom you've been seeking? A lot of our clients, businesses, new businesses, changing locations, whatever that is, what is it you want to do, and articulate it clearly. And then, what would it mean to spend more quality time, not just spare time, with those you love? Mindful time with the relationships, building your relationships. And this is an emergent theme we've seen again since 2020 with our clients as well. And then the last one, and I use this one on myself all the time, actually. Fast forward 6 years, what small step will your future self be thankful you started today? For me, I just started my second book in the past 2 weeks, and this is the question that kind of urged me to do that. So for many retirements reflect a pursuit of something deeper, a life with meaning and balance. And again, where you don't tell you what your meaning and balance is in your life, we just help fund it for you. And in that way, we look at your goals and then we translate that to your need, your investment horizon, your risk tolerance, and then your investment and your insurance solutions. So next slide. So we have a report. You can also talk to your RM, but the key takeaways today, hoping you get from this, I hope you get much more as well, is retirement is now cyclical, not linear. There's no magic formula to it, and it's really, really bespoke on your needs. Clients want to live their wealth and not just save it. If you've worked very hard and accumulated the wealth that you've had, you want to have a plan to enjoy it, as well as your legacy plans, of course, but you want to make sure that you're getting an optimal amount. I've noticed a lot of clients, they'll either hoard or overspend their money. So you want to have kind of a beautiful mix of both enjoying it and then saving it for your goals. And we can play a pivotal role in aligning that wealth with meaning. And yeah, and we look forward to seeing you in the branches. Thank you, Lester.
Thank you, Dr. Cora, for sharing with us the insights. Next, we have Nicholas to share with us. Nicholas, please.
Thank you, Lester. Thank you, Cora. If you can jump forward to my slides. Maybe let's go 2 forward. So I'll take just 30 seconds to quickly introduce T. Rowe. I think we are one of the newest partners on the HSBC platform. And there's a reason why Lester and Cora have asked me to join the conversation this evening. So T. Rowe, we were actually founded by Thomas Rowe Price, hence our name, in 1937. We're headquartered in Baltimore, which is about an hour's drive from Washington, D.C. Today, we have a 1.7 trillion of assets under management. We're one of the largest active asset managers globally, and we really draw our roots in growth equity investing. But as you can see on this slide today, we're one of the largest retirement players in the US. Almost over 1 trillion of assets under management in retirement-related investments. We've done this for over 20 years, and as you can see, what we've done very successfully is help the many investors who've trusted T. Rowe, both on the traditional sense of investing for the long term, as well as thinking about retirement. And if you go to the next page with me, what I hear from HSBC's survey is something that actually aligns very closely with a lot of the findings that we have in the T. Rowe Singapore Retirement Survey. And interestingly, we've run this same survey in many different countries, and there's this very strong alignment regardless whether we are in Singapore, Hong Kong, or any other country in the world. So what we've done in Singapore is we've created an online survey, and we've reached out to about 1,000 residents of Singapore. You can read the text as well. Essentially, it's a relatively short 10-minute online survey, and it's representative of the Singapore census. So the key difference between our survey and the one that HSBC has run is that we have done it on the entire representative Singapore population, whereas HSBC has done it globally and more focused on the affluent. So if you do see some slight differences, that is really the cause. So on to the next page. I wanted to highlight 3 key points that we found from our survey and follow that up with one of the key follow-ups. So the first one that we realized on the next page is that Singaporeans want to retire at their own pace. So if you look at the official retirement age in Singapore, this year it's 63, next year it goes up to 64. I don't really know anyone who wants to retire at that specific age. There is a later retirement age where you can work towards, in your late 60s as well. But if you look around you, you speak to friends, family, parents, cousins, most people either haven't thought about it in a very specific way, or they want to retire earlier, or they want to slow down a little bit into their 50s. Just looking at my own parents as well, they've taken their own retirement journey. My dad retired officially at 50, and he moved on to a smaller job, something that allowed him to pursue his personal interests. Again, very similar with what the HSBC survey finds. So what we have found is that more than 2/3 of the survey respondents actually did not want to retire at 63. So if you don't want to retire at the statutory retirement age, then is the traditional system something that you should think more about? Because the traditional system is set up to help individuals who really want to retire at this set statutory retirement age. So food for thought. If you haven't thought about it yet, it's probably a good time to start today. On to the next page. Second finding. So if you don't want to retire at 63, what other options do you actually have? And this is something that has become more and more in vogue in recent years. If you move to the next page, what we have started to find is that individuals that don't want to retire at 63 have 2 options that they tend to lean towards, and some actually want both. So we actually found that micro-retirement is something that's gaining a lot of traction. So this is very similar to mini-retirement, which is found in the HSBC survey. The key difference is actually we found in Singapore specifically. Individuals tend to want to take breaks for a shorter period of time than the rest of the globe. Call it 3 months to about a year. And what we see internationally, people tend to want to take breaks for slightly longer than that. But broadly speaking, the theme is the same. We want to take breaks earlier, typically around 50 years old. And we want to do that to really pursue our own individual interests. So look around you again, and I see many friends who are already thinking about taking sabbaticals, how they're going to spend time and make the most of when we are healthy and young and have energy to go and do the things that you want to do. This is something that's not typical 50 years ago, but increasingly we see everyone wants to do this. On to the next page. Unretirement is also something that we've come to realize is becoming very popular. So in this sense, it means that if you have officially retired from your job, but you can then move on to do something else. Typically, you would take a break for at least half a year. It could be something you come back to the workforce for a variety of reasons, which I'll go through later on. Typically, it could be just to stay healthy, maybe just want to supplement your retirement income. But these are all options that people always want. And this is something that we find more and more today. On the next page, I think this slide is the most telling slide. So out of the 1,000 respondents, more than half actually find both unretirement and micro-retirement attractive. That's over 500. And if you actually think about individuals who actually prefer to have either or, you're up at 960. We only have 40 respondents that said they prefer not to have either of these options available to them. So think about your own journey. If you're running a business, if you're working for a corporate, what do you want for your own retirement journey? If you have not yet thought about it or planned for it, it's really no time like today. So if we move on to the next slide, I'll just jump through the next few pretty quickly, just to show you some of the reasons that we've found. They overlap a lot with what the HSBC report says. So on micro-retirement, a lot of individuals say to maintain work-life balance, to relieve or for health reasons, you want to take a break, which makes a lot of sense. And on to the next page. We also find some indications about how much money individuals want. But again, this is more for the general population in Singapore, so maybe a little bit less relevant for the HSBC clients that we have on the call today. Onto the next page, you can see that we've done the same thing for unretirement, and a lot of the individuals want to do this for an income stream as well as to stay mentally active. And onto the next page as well. What we tend to find is that for individuals that tend to be more affluent, a lot of the times it's not about the money. It's really about finding something to do when you have nothing else. What do I spend my day with when I retire? That tends to be the burning question. So onto the next page, and maybe I'll skip a slide. Let's just go on to slide. There you go. And this is the big question. From individuals who want to micro-retire or unretire, what we've asked is, do you feel confident that you're able to do it? And more than half of respondents in both instances are not sure or say no. And why is that the case? And that moves on to the next point, which is the third key finding of our survey, is that there is a flex-ready gap. Meaning if you want flexible retirement, you truly need to plan for it. So again, across our survey, what we found is almost 60% of individuals said they need at least $1 million. And this skews higher the more affluent an individual is. So I would expect most people joining us today would be saying, we need at least 2.5 or maybe at least even 5. And on the next page, we see that 2/3 have actually set a retirement savings goal. 10% only have set a specific number in mind, but a good 56% have a general number in mind, which is at least a good starting point. And that is very important because if you look at the numbers below, of the individuals that do not have a number in mind, over 80% feel unprepared to actually take the retirement that they want to have. So the common saying goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from tonight's session, is have a think about it and start planning today. So if you move on to the next page with me, of those that want to actually have flexible retirement, which is 96% of our survey respondents, 30% actually say that they feel unprepared to move towards their ideal retirement. And that is actually a significantly higher fraction than of the individuals wanting conventional retirement. And that is because there's a lot more uncertainty when you think about what you want to achieve. How long is your break going to be if you're going to do a micro or mini retirement? What type of income are you going to be able to deliver or achieve when you come back and rejoin the workforce? If you retire early and decide to unretire, the same question comes back as well. And if you move on to the next page, one of the key ways we find to mitigate this level of uncertainty is to focus on thinking about the other options that you can to supplement your income in your retirement. Only 1/3 of our respondents actually indicate that they are familiar with investment retirement products today. And the majority have actually indicated things like time deposits or bank savings as their primary source of investment retirement product, which we find very contradictory to the next slide, where you actually see that 70% of our respondents describe themselves as having medium to high level of risk tolerance when investing for retirement. So what our survey results actually show is that there is room for individuals to understand more about some of the tools available for retirement planning. And this is a big gap if we want to achieve having a flexible retirement. Onto the next page. These are some of the key considerations when thinking about retirement solutions. The top two, I think, will be familiar to most. The first is to have a regular income, and the second is to have a growing capital when thinking about investments as well. So on the next page, I just wanted to share one of our expertise that we've been talking about a lot more in the US and delivering already. That is something that is not as well understood in the Singapore market, and that is the retirement glide path. So on the next page, what individuals have indicated through our survey is that they want a product that would reduce investment risk as retirement approaches, as opposed to one that stays constant throughout. But at the same time, I'm not familiar with what a glide path is. So later, I will show you a quick slide. Essentially, what a glide path investment is is when you are younger and further away from your retirement, you take on more equity risk because equity returns tend to be higher over the long term versus fixed income. And over time, you would de-risk your portfolio, moving out of equities and into fixed income as you move past retirement to provide more stability in your investment portfolio. And on the next page, this type of a portfolio actually considers all of the key retirement risks that individuals want to plan for. Longevity risk, which is outliving your assets. Behavioral risk, which is buying high and selling low. Downside risk, volatility risk, and inflation risk, which are also used in traditional investing products, but much more aware in, within a retirement solution such as the glide path solutions. So this is just giving you a more pictorial explanation of buying high and selling low. And maybe on the next page, it actually shows you a case study. So individuals here have been investing $2,000 a quarter since 1990, and this simulation is run through the end of 2021. We essentially simulate an investor that always tends to buy high and sell low in the brown bar. You can see that at the end of this almost 30 years, this investor does have a higher than their initial investment capital. But if you had held your investment through it all the way, you would see that the steady investor actually does have a much higher overall portfolio value at the end of time. So moving on to the next page, this is our glide path solution where you should think about when you are at your retirement, and then you can figure out how where to place yourself on this glide path as a recommendation for the average person at your age. So if, for example, you were to be at retirement today, you would be at the very middle of this chart, where we at T. Rowe would recommend a roughly 50-50 exposure between global equities and global fixed income as the optimal base case exposure. And as you move through retirement, you can see that we would recommend you to reduce that equity exposure to dampen the volatility within your portfolio. Conversely, if you are far away from retirement, the recommendation would be to have much more equity assets to ensure that you grow your pot of capital for a more holistic retirement. So on to the last slide. In summary, the three key points that we found from our survey is number one, Singaporeans tend to turn away from traditional retirement age. 2/3 of our respondents actually do not want to retire at the statutory requirement. Number two, flexible retirement is important among all individuals. Number three, micro and unretirement are valued, but there is a lot of uncertainty in whether we can achieve these goals. And last but not least, really a lack of sufficient planning for investment for retirement is something that I think all of us can start thinking about more today. So thank you, and let me pass the time back to Lester.
Thank you, Nicholas, for sharing with us on the Flex Ready Gap and Glide Path, as well as showcasing that mini or micro, in your own terms, retirement is indeed popular. To round off our insights this evening, I would like to invite Dr. Cora once more to share with us about a future planner tool which will help us with retirement. This is a tool which is available to our clients on the HSBC Singapore app, and I do hope that everyone on this webinar do get a chance to utilize this tool and actually see how it actually fits into your retirement planning. Dr. Cora, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Oh, there we go. So right now, for Singaporeans on the mobile app, there's something called the Future Planner tool where you can play with your retirement goal and you can play with your mini retirements for manage and grow your wealth goal, accumulation goal, or you can name whatever goal you want. So that's on your mobile tool now. And as of next week, we have an enhanced retirement journey in the branch. So your RMs will have the ability to go through that mountain that we discussed on the slides, and you can talk about your needs and then the wonderful solutions we have as well that Nick alluded to as well. So we're very, very excited with this. We really hope that it supports you guys, the insights, and our clients have been asking for this. So we cannot wait, to have more discussions with you. And there's a QR code.
Thank you, Dr. Cora and Nicholas. This is quite an insightful sharing indeed, and I'm sure many of us have quite a number of takeaways from this session. We are close to the end of our webinar, and we have approximately about 10 minutes in taking some questions from our participants listening in. This is a great chance for you to raise any questions that you may have on the topics discussed earlier or about your own retirement. We'll try our best to cover as many as possible. So do type in your questions at the chat box, and our team will be selecting the questions for Dr. Cora and Nicholas to share their views. So now, the first question perhaps for Nicholas. Why does T. Rowe's glide path approach recommend a relatively high equity exposure across all time periods?
Thanks, Lester. Actually, if you don't mind, we can go back a few slides to slide 40. I just wanted so
Sure.
everyone can see the glide path recommendation. So I think a common misconception is that once you get to retirement, which is at the middle of this page, you should be de-risking, selling out of all risky assets and moving into safe haven assets like treasuries, right? So if you look at what the treasury yield is, call it 4% handle, that's not going to last you for that long, right? If you're thinking about stretching your dollar as best you can. So if you look at the inflation rates in Singapore, last 20 years, 2.2%. Last 60 years, this S360 is 4%. So if you think about how much a car or a house might cost in 20 years or 30 years, 40 years time, I think the numbers actually that you would work around just by using simple math would surprise most. And if you don't plan for that type of inflation risk and longevity risk, you will be caught up. If you look at average life expectancy in Singapore, right now we're at 83 years old. That's the average. If you live healthy, eat healthy, there's no reason why you can't live into your 90s. And if you retire earlier, like we spoke, unretire, mini-retire, micro-retire, you could have potentially 40 years of being in retirement mode, where you're just drawing on your existing assets to fund your retirement life. And you, I think, as individuals, tend to want to have some kind of legacy planning as well for your children and family members. So that's actually why at T. Rowe, what our proprietary database of investors, we have over 2.5 million direct investors in the US in our retirement programs. And just by studying data on how they have been drawing cash, how they have been thinking about extending and maximizing their returns, we have found that this is the optimal, that you should really still have about half of your portfolio in equities at retirement, and it only de-risks gradually to about 30%, even 25, 30 years past. Because if you have too much fixed income, you would then leave a lot of money on the table, and longevity risk becomes a very, very real problem.
Thank you, Nick. So we have an interesting question here from one of our clients. I'm 52. Have I missed the boat? What are your thoughts? Maybe perhaps Cora?
I think that's coming from the statistic that 47 is the ideal age for a mini retirement. As we said, there's no formula. What we've seen in terms of patterns for everyone is every 6 years for 6 months is the emergent pattern that's coming. But no matter what your age is, you are where you are, right? So in order to make sure your money lasts, and there's a health component to it as well that we don't talk about, but also investing in yourself, making sure that you're the best your body and your mind can be, and just enjoying your life, right? So it doesn't matter the age.
Thank you, Cora. The next question we have, with micro and unretirement becoming a big trend, how do I identify where am I on my retirement journey relative to the glide path? So perhaps, Nick, could you share with us your thoughts?
Yeah, so the beauty of the glide path is you can jump around it. So it's, for example, if right now I have plans, for example, to micro retire in a couple of years. And just factoring that in, potentially I could, okay, de-risk my portfolio for that couple of years because I'm semi-retired for however long I am. And when I come back into the workforce, I can then move on this glide path again and jump back up to say maybe retire in 10, 15 years. Unretirement is the same. So think about if you initially plan to retire at 55 and you get there, you stop working, and for whatever reason, you realize that, hey, actually, inflation's a lot worse than I thought it would be. Maybe I want to have a part-time job, or I want to do something to keep mentally fit. You can move back again. And that's, I think, is the very strong importance of having this type of a glide path and having solutions that allow individuals to pick where they are and move around it. So if you think about what you need from your portfolio as well, at the end of the day, you can either wealth accumulate or you can decumulate from such a solution. And if you have children that, for example, are about to enter university, going to the UK, for example, to study, it costs a lot of money. So perhaps for those few years when an individual has children moving into university, you can move from accumulation to, using a solution that slightly is decumulating to fund some of the liabilities that you may have. And that's something that is the beauty of this glide path and something that we really are very excited to introduce to the market because we don't see it enough.
Thank you, Nick. We have a few more questions coming in. Why do you think this mini retirement has become such a trend? Cora, maybe you could share with us?
Honestly, it's surprising to me too, but maybe back in the day we had career gaps and we kind of just dusted over them. Maybe it's more accepted to talk about them, but I've seen it personally since 2020. I think 2020 was a game changer for a lot of people in terms of prioritization with our lifestyle shifts. So who knows? But I mean, it really doesn't matter what like we showed what matters to other people, right? But it really matters whether you want one or not, right? You don't have to do what other people want, but it is an emergent trend, and we want to make sure we support it as a bank because we want to set up our clients for success and optimal wealth in all ways. So it's very important that we have the tools to be able to support you guys with this.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cora. So thank you, Dr. Cora and Nicholas. That was the last question we'll be able to answer as we're running out of time. I hope you clients have enjoyed the session and found the information valuable and insightful. There was so much that Dr. Cora and Nicholas has covered over the past hour or so with us. Thank you so much once again to our speakers. If you do have any questions that Dr. Cora and Nicholas did not manage to answer, or want to find out more about our future planning retirement tool, please feel free to reach out to your relationship managers. Also, if you need help with your retirement planning, do also reach out to your relationship managers, and they'll be glad to aid you in this journey together. Thank you once again for your time and participation today. Wishing all of you a smooth and steady rest of the year from all of us here at HSBC.